Hi, my name is Indra. Welcome to Asian Economic class. Today I'd like to explain about South Korea. Hope you enjoy. So here's the world map continents. As you can see, Asia is represented by purple and the rest North America, South America, Africa, Europe, and Australia. South Korea is known as one of the four Asian tigers, along with Hong Kong, Taiwan, and Singapore. South Korea has 50.6 million population with GDP around 1.38 trillion US dollars in 2015, representing just under 2% of the global economy. Service industry account for 60% and manufacturing account for 40%. South Korea is a member of Group of 20, better known as G20. It is an international forum for 19 governments and central banks plus European Union. In 1910, Korea was colonized by its neighbor Japan. Korea was one. There was no either North or South Korea. Back in 1945, especially in Asia, World War II was between Japan and Allies, consisted of USA, Britain, Soviet Union, and France. Japan lost against the Allies, and then the Allies took Korea from Japan. The Allies then divided Korea into two. On the north, there's Korea under Soviet Union with its communist ideology, and in the south, Korea under the Allies with capitalist ideology. This then created tension between the two sides. Between 1950 to 1953, for 3 years, these two ideologies would fight against each other and accumulating and creating a war known as Korean War. It was all about wanting to spread the ideologies and having more followers of countries to support their ideologies. Same applied to Afghanistan and Vietnam. Nearly 5 million Korean people died in this war. After the war in the 1960s, the GDP per capita of South Korea was only 79 US dollars, lower than most Latin America and sub-Saharan African countries. Corruption, ineffective government, and political instability continued until General Park Chung-hee became a president in 1961. Despite heavy criticism of Park Chung-hee's political repression, his authoritarian leadership was responsible for the so-called "miracle on the Han River". Park Chung-hee was at the office from 1961 to 1979. So what he did, stunningly impressive export-led economic growth. Domestic saving was encouraged, and the economy was opened up to international trade. And the result were rapid industrialization and urbanization, and infrastructural and technological achievements. The US views South Korea as a key ally during Cold War. That's why US providing grants and loans worth around 60 billion between 1946 into 1979. This economic aid was used by Park Chung-hee to build up large business conglomerates known as the Chaebol, which become the country's economic champions. Shipbuilding developed in 1970s. During this time, South Korea became a leading producer of ships. especially oil super tankers. Hyundai. The country's major shipbuilder was Hyundai, which built a 1 million ton capacity dry docks at Ulsan in the mid 1970s. And Daewoo joined the shipbuilding industry in 1980. By 1982, South Korea was the second largest shipbuilding nation after Japan. Bye. Other major South Korean shipbuilding firms include Samsung Heavy Industry, Daewoo Shipbuilding and Marine Engineering, and STX Offshore and Shipbuilding. Automobiles developed in 1980s. The automobile industry was a major growth and export industry in the 1980s. By the late 1980s, the capacity of the South Korean motor industry exceeded 1 million units. Hyundai and Kia Automotive Group is the country's largest automakers. The Hyundai Motor Company was founded in 1967 and acquired control of Kia's after Kia's bankruptcy during the Asian financial crisis. The combined company is now the world's third largest car manufacturer, expanded manufacturing plants in the US, Czech Republic, Russia, Turkey, India, and China. The plant has an annual capacity of 1.6 million vehicles. GDP per capita of South Korea in 1980s was 2,300 US dollars compared to in 1960s it was only like 79 US dollars. Amazing. So here's Samsung. Electronics developed in 1990s. Found in 1969, its early products included televisions, calculators, refrigerators, and washing machines. In the middle of 1970s, it expanded through the acquisition of Korea Semiconductors into the semiconductor business. So the success of Samsung of its memory chips, smartphone, and television has made it the world's biggest technology firms by revenue. The world's largest manufacturers of television, LCD panels, semiconductors, and mobile phones. More than 90% of its revenue is generated from export. Chairman Lee Kun-hee was upset about the first cell phone quality that then he invited 2,000 employees to witness the burning of 150,000 phones and fax machines in March of 1994. From this moment onwards, Samsung Electronics changed its ethos and invested heavily to enable it to deliver innovative and desirable consumer products. The secret of success. First, it was American aid and technical assistance from 1950s to 1970s. Hardworking labor force, 72 hours per week in 1980s. Lower wages than neighbors. It was 2.9 per hour for textile workers in 1989, while Japan, $13 per hour. Population of 50 million providing a reasonably large domestic market. A strong role of the government laws to promote certain industry, for example, electronics. It's laws to prevent workers and trade unions from going on strike from 1960s to 1980s. The evaluation of currency to make export cheaper and more highly educated workforce than other LETC countries. And the last is the Foreign Investment Promotion Act of 1998, opened up 99% of the country's industries to foreign investment. So why NSC is so attractive for TNCO Medsi? Because of low labor cost, low land cost, available raw materials, weaker environmental and planning legislations, expanding domestic markets, government encouragement, for example, reduce import and export tariffs, Manufacturing in consumer electrical or electronic goods, textile and clothing, shipbuilding increasingly had moved into car assembly, the service industries, call center for banks, insurance firms. NIC's newly industrialized country have not reached advanced economic status have outpaced the economic growth of other developing countries. Growth is usually export-oriented and based around rapid industrialization. The first wave of NIC from the late 1960s, known as the Asian Tiger, South Korea, Singapore, Taiwan, and Hong Kong. Thank you for listening to my presentation and watching as well. Matur Suksuma, terima kasih.